Hello, and welcome to the Herondale Boy Support Group. I'm Allie,
I'm Melanie.
I'm Jenny.
and we are here to help. Yeah. So we're back at
That's
you.
what we do.
That is what we do, supposedly.
Well, we try anyway.
Exactly. So welcome back. Yeah. Merry Christmas. If you are listening to this when it drops on YouTube and on Spotify and Apple Music, then it is Christmas Day. So Merry Christmas to those of you who celebrate,
Yeah.
and happy December 25th. I hope that you have a good, Monday, for those of you who don't.
Like me. It'll
Like
just be
me.
another day for me.
Exactly.
Yep.
You'll
So
get
for
there.
those of you out there, I see you. You are seen.
So Hanukkah has come and went. How was Hanukkah, Melanie?
It was all right. We ran out of candles, so we didn't
no.
actually light
No.
any. Oops.
That feels like failing step one.
Maybe.
So I guess,
I mean, I was also working the entire time,
Ooh.
so yeah.
Yeah. Gotta love working on holidays. How we all do.
I'll
it
be at
now,
work
like,
on Christmas Eve
it's
and
terrible.
Christmas.
I won't be at work on Christmas
Nah.
Eve, but I will work Christmas Day. And I won't even be eligible for holiday pay, because I'm fucking seasonal, and I'm pissed. I'm being
The
robbed.
worst.
F in the chat for
Ugh.
Allie.
I know. I'll be holding a balloon in a Christmas parade on Christmas Day. So. Which, like, everybody will be hype, so it'll be fun. The energy will be
Oh,
good,
yeah.
but also
Mhm.
Christmas.
Yeah. Everyone will cheer for the balloons coming down the way. Cheering
I'll
for
be
Adam's
cheering
balloons.
from the other side, from north in the country for you.
Thanks. I
Woo.
appreciate you. But yeah.
But yeah.
So Ginny and I will do Christmas Eve with her family.
Yeah. Yep. Have the gathering of family as you do. Eat some food. Exchange some gifts.
hmm
And then we'll
Yeah,
go.
we had that whole one. We had all of my family come over for one of the nights that we did the whole food and gifts thing, so.
Did you get
Nice.
anything exciting?
Yeah.
Mostly clothes.
Okay. Cute clothes?
Some
Yeah.
new pairs of boots.
Okay. We like boots.
Oh. Yeah,
Yeah.
I feel like it's a toss up when your family gets you clothes, Or like that's the thing
Oh,
is
I
just
agree.
my history with like clothes is like normally my grandmother would give me clothes, so like
Mm-hmm.
I didn't actually most of the time like them,
The thing
but
is,
I
like,
had to wear them at least once because my
no one's.
grandmother got them.
People could get me books, but there's no point because, like, I own a lot already.
I see.
Yeah, you can always have more, but yeah. Ugh.
They also wouldn't know what to even get me, so.
That's fair. I made my parents a list this year with just
Did you check it
Me
twice?
too.
stuff that I wanted. Yeah. I made my parents a list for stuff for me and stuff for Ginny, because my parents get stuff for both of us for Christmas. Which
Did
is
you
nice.
did you check this list twice? Because
I did.
you know Santa would want you to.
Yes, I did.
Santa.
Santa.
Yeah. Yeah, I also did a list this year and last year I did one. We're finally to the point like as adults where it's like
We're
harder
distant
to
enough
shop
from our
for
parents.
everybody. Like
Yeah. Like when you're children,
Yeah.
it's easy because all you want is toys.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it is. Like yeah, you want all these little dumb toys that are like just fun and but like as an adult, like the small things you normally can buy yourself, like if it's like a $20 or less gift, you're like, yeah, you just gotta get it, or
Mhm.
like depending on your price point, like even higher sometimes, you're like, if it's not that expensive, I'm just gonna get it for myself. And
Yeah.
then like
Christmas is for the parents to get you the expensive
It's
practical
just-
things.
yeah. And yeah.
Well, I hope you two get
And it's
everything
less-
you want
less,
for Christmas.
We will
And
keep you
it's more
posted.
boring though because it's like practical things are expensive, like more expensive, and like they're because like as a kid I feel like I remember doing a lot of like you open presents in the morning and then you play with them all day, but like
Mhm.
nowadays I'm like, ooh, my
There's
gift
nothing like that
card, or,
feeling of opening
Ooh,
the
an egg cooker.
yeah,
Which I
ooh,
fucking love my egg
yeah.
cooker.
There's
This
just,
is
like-
not a diss,
Well,
the egg
we've
cooker.
all- we love
no
it, yeah.
feeling.
No,
There's like no
no.
feeling other than like opening up the Toys R Us catalog and just circling whatever you
Oh.
want.
The big red book.
For real.
And it came with the stickers. Man, that was the shit.
Be like, I want this and this,
And I
knowing
do.
full well you're probably not getting most of it.
Oh no,
no.
yeah, no, for sure.
I want this crappy useless toy. I want this crappy useless toy. I want this one that's gonna annoy the fuck out of my parents nonstop because it makes so much noise. But you see, those are the ones that grandma's good for. Grandma will get you the annoying as fuck toys that your parents don't want to bring. The Furby, that's what grandma's for. Grandma's got you. The Easy Bake Oven, where your parents are like, just go cook in the real oven.
I don't know that they should be having you do that, depending on what age you are.
You clearly have not met my parents.
I mean, I semi-met your dad.
Well, that is true. I guess, yeah.
That's true. Virtually met.
You're loosely acquainted with my father. Yeah, so that's what's coming
I've
up.
heard enough stories of Child Alley.
That is true. I was obnoxious. So how's everyone's 2 weeks been? Did we get up to anything exciting since the last time we met?
I got more cookies yesterday. That's about it.
Cookies are exciting.
Cookies. Yeah, I'm tired. I'm here, but I'm tired because I was just at the convention. So,
the con life.
Yeah, the con life. It's
Ginny doesn't
it's
sleep.
fun. It's cool, but I'm currently tired, and yeah, I'm gonna need a little help on these summaries. A little extra help today.
I got you.
I did it. Yeah. Thanks, guys. I did. Yeah, I read all my stuff, but the summaries, and I'm trying to.
These shorts, the summaries are so long.
I know they are, just because it's like a whole. There's a whole plot, like arc
in these 40 or 40 pages.
In that much amount of time.
There's
so
just
it's like
character development in like 40 pages.
Yeah, and
whole character arcs in like 40 pages.
When we're reading the like sections of a book, sometimes it's more like
filler and
sometimes
whatnot.
we hit that like beach episode time where we just hang out with the characters and stuff. So it's not like the main plot points aren't always happening in like but here we gotta have a whole plot arc.
There's a lot to say.
Exposition and set up everything, talk about the characters, have a conflict, and then resolve the conflict too.
Exactly.
So
or not,
there's a lot here.
Depending on the story.
Or don't resolve the conflict.
Oh yeah, no.
Or maybe it's just a teaser, a little taste of what's to come.
Exactly.
It's been an exciting week for our household because we got a baby sugar glider, or I got a new baby sugar glider. And so if you're wondering what the heck's going on in my shirt, there's 2 little sugar gliders hanging out in here. I have sugar gliders. Right now I have Bijou and her cage mate. Ironically, Jem was his name. He passed away a little over a month ago. And sugar gliders are colony animals, so it's important that they have friends and companions and whatnot. So I knew that I wanted to get her one relatively soon, and just the stars lined up for me to get this little baby girl last week. So that's what I did last Saturday when we were not podcasting, is I went and picked up a baby sugar glider. And so they're hanging out and getting acquainted.
Did you name the sugar glider?
Yes, her name is Cassette. So Bijou and Cassette.
Okay.
Okay. She's such a diva. Like, she's very particular. So we wanted to go with a leading lady name. Even though I don't think the character Cassette's not a diva from Les Mis, obviously.
She could be.
Not this particular
like
kind
dainty.
of diva.
No.
Yeah. Yeah.
Does she perhaps live on a castle on a cloud?
But...
Yeah. She does not live in a castle on a cloud. But the name's also French, and Bijou is also a French name, so... But so that's her name.
I like it.
Yes.
Yeah.
She's very
I said
cute.
it works in the song.
It does.
A Heart Full of Love, because like the name or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Where Marius is just like, my name is Marius, I'm Mercy, and I'm
Cassette.
Yeah, so and the syllables for Bijou and then Ali's last name work for that, and I'm Cassette, and I was like, it works,
Yeah, because we went through a lot of names, and I was texting Virginia, I was like, what do we think about this one? What do you think about this one? Because you have to get to know your pet, like naming a pet is a delicate art, and like sugar gliders
gotta know the personality.
Live a long time, They can live up to like 12 to 15 years sometimes, so you want to make sure that you're doing something you stuck with. Which, by the way, PSA, if you're thinking of getting a sugar glider, don't. For every reason that they are a cute pet and a great pet, there are 2 that they are terrible pets. say rest in peace to your clean floors. They also just smell, not even just like dirty like animal poop smells. They just like smell like sugar gliders. So yeah, do your research and get to know some before getting them, because
Well done.
with many exotics, like, yeah, they work for certain kind of people. But that's my PSA. They're very cute. They're hanging out here, so if you see random movements, if you're watching this on YouTube, I promise nothing weird is happening. There's just a sugar glider hanging out.
Which may be a little weird in and of itself, but
yeah, they're like babies. Yeah. They're like the skin-to-skin contact. They like hanging out.
They do.
Speaking of babies,
I was also, you just said something, and I lost the train of thought, but go ahead. So, yeah, maybe I'll get it back.
Was it about
sugar gliders? Something we wanted to talk about. Yeah, we wanted to talk about no, never mind.
Sugar gliders being great pets. Sugar gliders are terrible pets.
I don't have the segue anymore, but we'll like, I mean, so there's no segue anymore, but like, I remember, we're going to talk about the books, right?
Mm-hmm.
So like,
in theory,
we we've been talking, we talk a little bit before we get on here, right? And just about, we don't talk about the stories too much. We're very vague about it so that we can save all of it for this. But you were telling us recently that not all these books, we can't read all these books, in schools, right?
Shit, that's right. Oh, yes. Okay.
Allie mentioned this in a text.
Yes, relating to the books. So, Ginny and I live in the great state of Florida. Yeah, DeSantis hellscape. It's fine. We hate it here.
Yeah.
We love it for a lot of reasons, but there's also just as many reasons to hate it.
Just come up here.
Maybe that was maybe that
can see the New York Institute.
We love it, but then we also hate it. Like,
it's like sugar gliders, where you love it and you hate it at the same time. But yeah, so it was like, we love the natural beauty. We love the natural splendor.
If you're thinking of moving to Florida, don't, because there's just as many reasons to hate it.
Every reason there is to love it, there's two to hate it.
Yeah.
Ron and DeSantis.
Currently. Yeah.
Currently. So,
yeah, definitely.
Yeah, if you keep up with the news, a lot of shitty things are happening in our schools in general. For example, teachers are no longer allowed to use their students' preferred pronouns unless they've gotten like permission from the parents and whatnot. And there's this whole,
and like nicknames even count as that.
Nicknames also count. Yep.
Yeah, like
it is. Yeah, and Ginny works at the
terrible
college higher levels, and like she needs to run posts about like
diversity. Yeah, like
exactly
anything that's like mildly related to diversity, or like celebrating a a specific holiday related to diversity. I have to run social media posts by people even higher than me, like the leadership of schools or like the deans or this and that, to make sure I can post this on social media. Like it's
really
dumb. A lot.
And yeah, like I think it was Juneteenth, your post basically got cut to one sentence.
It did, yeah. And I write, and I feel like I'm pretty good at writing things that are nice, but not, but I can stay within the guidelines. But then, it got completely wiped. All the stuff that I wrote got wiped, and they were like, this is the one thing that we can say, and I was like,
Happy Juneteenth.
Oh. Yeah, and I was like, awesome. This is, I hate it, but guess this is what we get.
Yeah, so that's the context that you need. And I was scrolling through my inbox, and in Orange County, which is a county in Central Florida, 637 books have been preemptively pulled from the shelves for review. And so they're not allowed this year. They have to go through like a review process and all this fun stuff. And on that list, there were 4 Cassandra Clare books, including Chain of Iron and Chain of Thorns, which are the last 2 that we're going to be reading. And yeah, so like I feel conflicted looking at some of these lists, because sometimes it's just the collection of books that they put on this is so dumb, because there will be like House of Earth and Blood, which for those of you who don't know is a Sarah J. Maas story for new adults, and it's explicit. Like, it should absolutely not be in schools. Honestly, it's probably not in schools. Someone just decided to put this name on a list to pull it because it's dumb and it's stupid and yeah, just so like yeah, sure, kids shouldn't be reading that. I agree. Though ironically, it's still in schools. It's just now behind the desk and you have to ask the librarian for it. You need parental permission, which I think is really hilarious. But anyway, but then we have like And Tango Makes Three is a popular one that's been banned in Florida. And it's a book about the penguins at the zoo. Tango the penguin, who is gay and has his little penguin husband, and then they raise a little baby together. And it's a children's book version of that story. And yeah, it's been pulled from the shelves. But yeah. So I saw that these Cassandra Clare books were on it, and I thought it was an interesting time to kind of discuss thoughts on book bans and whatnot. And I think that they were pulled for sexual content and LGBTQ content. So.
Of course.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, I think we all have similar thoughts on this, if not the same. It's dumb to ban a book for LGBTQ content. Sexual content is one thing if it's explicit, like Sarah J. Maas. Mm-hmm. But this is a YA book we're talking about.
Exactly.
There's nothing... I highly doubt there's anything crazy that's not just like a fade to black.
Exactly. And that's the thing. Having read this whole series, and Ginny has as well, there are quote unquote spicy scenes, but they're fade to black. And the very typical what you would expect of a YA novel to be, right? And there's this dumb push to sanitize the world for children in a way that's unrealistic. You know? Like, I would argue that sexual content in YA, in the way that it's approached, you know, as teens or young adults doing this thing that is a human experience, that literally every single one of your ancestors has done this thing because you are now here. And, you know, yeah. And it's something that 99.9% of the population who wants to, asterisk, will participate in it at some point. Like, you can't pretend that sex doesn't exist. And I think that introducing it in these healthy ways of a YA, in the context of a YA book, where it's fade to black, and it's the natural evolution of this kind of romantic thing. Yeah, I think that it's stupid to try and hide that from.
And it's not like in, say, entertainment geared towards teens specifically. Mm-hmm. Let's make it clear. We're not advocating that young children be shown these sexual content.
It's not porn.
Right.
It's not, we're not
but
saying,
I'm saying like
pornography.
I'm saying like kids who are probably still young that maybe don't, you know. Mm-hmm. Like as a teenager, yeah, it's fine. Like
we're not
shows
going
like
into kindergarten, like, and then right. James and Cordelia.
Shows like Riverdale and
right.
like 90210 and whatever you want to call it. The shows that our parents grew up on. They all did these things. They all had these situations where these teenage characters were having sex with each other. But you don't really hear about it being an issue in TV shows as much as you hear it being an issue about books.
So interestingly enough, I was reading a post that I came across the other day that mentioned that this whole demonization of sexuality and like, it was particularly in reference to drag, is a recent phenomenon. Because like back in the 90s, there, like, it was talking specifically about movies and theater, because you go way, way, way back to the origins of theater, it was just men. So like even female performers or female parts were played by men dressed as women. And, you know, we have movies like in the 90s and whatnot. Tu Wong Fu, Thanks for Everything, Julie Newmar, is a movie about drag queens that just exist and nobody had a problem with it. Like, and then you had Mrs. Doubtfire is a thing. It's not particularly, like, it's a man in drag as part of the plot. And, like, yeah, so this whole demystification is a new push.
Right.
And it's just wild.
We shouldn't be keeping these experiences from people who are at the age where it's appropriate for them to be reading about them. It's not like we're asking them to read Sarah J. Maas or Colleen Hoover or spicy romance.
And
where
even Sarah
it's-
J. Maas has young adult series that are appropriate, like the Throne of Glass series, for
Well,
example.
that one's actually not being classified as regular adult fantasy.
It's because she's... Sarah, this is not a Sarah J. Maas
I know.
podcast,
It's not
but
because
I
of
have...
the content in it. It's because of Sarah J. Maas. I'm aware.
It's
But
because she's turned everything into this big multi-universe crossover fan fiction, and I just... Yeah.
I know it's not because of the content in it. It's just like,
Right.
it is like, there are, plenty of books out there that are much more heavy in the sexual content than this fade to black YA book that, like, whenever, because at a book, and working at a bookstore, you see all these like 13-year-olds, 12, 13-year-olds picking up a Colleen Hoover book, and you're like, maybe you shouldn't be doing that.
Right. It's not 50 Shades of Grey. It's not, and yeah, I think the elephant in the room is the LGBTQ content that is making it worse too. And I was thinking about it because, for context, I'm gay, and
if you didn't already know.
In case you didn't already know, by the way, hi, I'm Allie, I'm gay. And I think about, like, the exposure to queerness I had as a kid, And I was thinking about it, and I think that my first exposure to a gay character in any media that I was consuming, like explicitly gay, was Nico D'Angelo, and that was in the second series of Percy Jackson books. And I, like, remember reading this very vividly in high school, sitting in the cafeteria, and then I was like, my first thought was, oh, damn it, because I had a crush on Nico when I was a child. I was just like, God damn it.
Same.
And, like,
I was like,
well, he's not gonna swing for you.
I was like, fuck, was the first reaction.
Yeah. Same. I was heartbroken personally, but
good for Nico and Will Salas, but
yeah,
God
exactly.
damn it.
Yeah.
And then, like, a bisexual relationship, the bisexual person, the first person was Magnus Bane in City of Bones, was, like, the first, like, bisexual awareness that I had. And then for, like, queer women, I think is Helen and Aileen in the City of Bone series, but they're very much in the background. Like, I had to think about that. And I think that the first, like, queer woman lead I read about in YA might be Anna Lightwood, who we're about to discover more about. And, like, that might be speaking to, like, the content that I'm consuming in particular, but, like, for queer women in YA, that was Chain of Gold, which came out very recently. And I can't help but think...
say.
Yeah.
Oh, you can go ahead. I was gonna say something else, but you go. Finish what you're saying.
Yeah. I can't help but think that if I had been exposed to... For additional context, I didn't know that I was queer until I was 20, 21. And then I identified as bisexual as, an adult. And I didn't know that I was gay until last year at the age of 26. And I can't help but wonder if I'd had more exposure to these characters who are like me, if I might have figured that out a little bit sooner, and I might, like, overall be happier, And, like, kids these days are more aware of these things, obviously. But...
Not if we try to take them from them.
Exactly.
Is
like,
the point. Like,
taking away LGBTQ content from kids and teens isn't going to make them any less gay.
No.
It's just going to make them more angry.
Yeah, and more hiding and more,
Gay people exist. Queer people exist.
Yeah.
People who challenge the gender binary have existed as long as humans have existed, Yeah. This two-gender binary is a myth. This...
You can be a straight person and still be... I don't know if this is the right way to say it, but an ally or someone who recognizes that, people who are queer are just there. There's nothing, they're just there. They're just people.
Exactly. When we try to hide people that exist, we create an unknown. And the unknown breeds fear. And that's how we get, these threatened old white guys sitting in Congress saying, no, you can't be gay. That is terrible. Blah, 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 blah. And yeah, it's a problem for a much worse society. And, you know, getting dark and real here, like the suicide rate for teens, for children who identify as LGBTQ, especially transgender youth, like, are ridiculously high because they feel alone. You know, if we villainize these things, we create these kids who feel alone. I'm sorry, but pretending it doesn't exist is not going to make the problem go away.
It's going to make it just exponentially worse.
I didn't know that I could be gay until I didn't know that straight women didn't also want to touch other women's boobs until the age of, like, 21. That didn't mean that, you know... that didn't mean I didn't want those things. Like...
TLDR, don't ban books because there's gay people in them.
Exactly. And, like, it's horrifying because when you banning books is never the start of anything good, you know.
No,
that is the beginning of fascist regimes. That is banning books.
Controlling information and access is not something that we don't like. That we don't like that.
There's a quote somewhere by someone that says when they start to paraphrase, says, when they start banning books, go read them immediately and find out what they don't want you to know.
I feel like Stephen King said that. Why do I feel like Stephen King said that?
He may have, but...
Well, anyway.
I echo that sentiment.
Yeah.
Yes.
Seek it out. Find out what they don't want you to know.
And use it against them.
Exactly.
Cause chaos.
Yeah, be gay, do crime.
Anyway.
Be gay, do crime. Yes.
Yeah.
Speaking of doing crime.
Speaking of these books, and crime, and I was gonna say, and about people who don't fit in. This is.
There are some people who commit crimes in these short stories.
There's some stuff happening. We get expelled in the first story that we've got.
Spoiler alert for the Bane Chronicles.
Spoilers.
Shadowhunter Academy and Ghost of the Shadow Market.
Yes.
We are beginning with Tales from the Shadowhunter Academy. Cast Long Shadows.
Nothing but shadow,
or no.
Nothing but shadows.
Nothing but shadows. That's right.
Yes.
Nothing but shadows. Okay, I'm like, oh.
Yeah, we have two
shadows.
Like shadows is like
where shadows is in the name. Yeah. Anyway,
yeah. So
Ginny,
we're gonna
take
be
it away.
splitting up some stories, and I'm gonna start with this summary a little bit. This one's unfortunately really long. I'm gonna need some help at the end of this summary. So hopefully, if you've read it, you know what I'm talking about. If you've not, maybe you'll get there. But this story is Tales from the Shadowhunters Academy. And then this is a story which Katarina Loss is telling to Simon Lewis about James Herondale, one of our new characters that we're going to experience in our next series here. So James Herondale, son of Will Herondale, he's used to people succumbing to the natural charms of his father. William Herondale, we all love and know him. We've screamed about him for, I think it was, 925 minutes this year. You know him. We know him. Will Herondale.
I am catastrophically in love with you, Will Herondale.
I am catastrophically in love with you, Will Herondale. DILF Will Herondale is here. and
okay, go ahead.
At age 13, James cannot help but feel small and unimpressive with his like really rumpled hair. Like, his dad has like tousled hair and his is just like smashed against his head sometimes, and like it's awkward, and he's got these weird abnormal golden eyes. James Herondale is really quiet too. He's shy. His nose is always buried in a book. He doesn't really engage with other people that much. He doesn't have anyone he considers his friend except for maybe Grace, maybe. But like, does she have any other friends? Does she have a choice in that? We don't know. So, anyways, he's going to go to the Shadowhunter Academy for the first time, and he's scared. He's nervous. Very nervous. But, when he gets there, he's like, oh, he recognizes his cousin, Christopher Lightwood, and then he sees Christopher's cousin, Thomas Lightwood, and he's seen them at, like, family gatherings. He's like, and he gets this idea, he's like, maybe I can talk to them. Maybe they can be my friends. But then, enter Matthew Fairchild. Boom. Slides right in, and he is a radiant crowd pleaser. Matthew Fairchild, with his fine words and his equally fine hair, just steals the moment away from him and steals these friends that James intended to be his own friends. And then he's, all the while calling him Jamie, his family nickname, while James is like, no, it's James. Yeah. So we're off to a great start. We're off to a great start. Yeah. And so, Matthew Fairchild has this laissez-faire attitude about him, and it makes him seem above it all, and he's just too cool for this school, and he attracts all these friends with his stories and that stupid angelic smile that placates all of the teachers, even Professor Ragnarfell, who is like really paranoid over Christopher's tendency for explosives. Um, so, Matthew's existence is like such an inconvenience to James, right? And it all comes to a head when Alistair Carstairs and his bully friends insert themselves into this conversation that Matthew and James are having, and then it ends in James getting this nickname Goatface, and it sticks. And then James is like, this is terrible, I hate it here, and sees Matthew's like bystanding as part of this problem, and he's like, I want nothing to do with you anymore. We're done. Leave me alone forever. And so he goes and starts sitting with the mundanes at the lunch table. So, this doesn't help his reputation, of course, because there's definitely this disparity between the elites and the dregs, supposedly. The hopeful ascendants who are born from mundanes, and then the ones who are born from Shadowhunters who have it in their blood. So it doesn't help. And then things get worse when James figures out his roommate is also Matthew Fairchild and his many hairbrushes. It's terrible. Many, many hairbrushes. And so he's like, fine, he's like, I'm gonna go. I'm not gonna be in this room. And he goes and finds these corners to read in late at night, and he just stays out of his room as much as he can. He's just hiding in the corner reading all the time. And then, somehow, Matthew ends up being, gone in the morning most of the time when he wakes up, which is great because that means less time together, but whatever. And somehow Matthew remains popular through all of this. He's still so popular, even though it's insulting people and then he's bad behavior in school. He doesn't do any of the work. He's such a slacker. How is he so popular? It's so infuriating, right? And Thomas is like, I mean, if you get to know him, I'm sure you'd like him. And James is like, I don't think so. I don't think so. And then, yeah, and Thomas has his moment where he's explaining to James that just this nickname stuck just because he's also hanging out with the mundanes, and people are just afraid of people who are different because nobody else does that here. It's just him. And then James takes it the wrong way. He gets angry about it, and he's like, "Well, you should also like the mundanes because your mother was one, and she's great, and blah blah blah, and you should understand." And Thomas is like, "That's not what I meant." And then, but James just he gets mad sometimes, and he just storms off. He tends to do that. It's fine. But he offers, he has this moment where he offers to practice with Matthew, who is behind on his training. And Matthew's just like, my training. And then Ragnarfell is like, someone want to practice with this guy? And James is like, I'll do it. And then they go off, and James
Important
is totally
context
looking forward.
That Ragnarfell is teaching this lesson because Matthew was pissed off all the teachers where they've all called in sick because they don't want to deal with this shit anymore.
Right. Yeah, there's no
and
other
genuinely
teachers, it's just
volunteers because he
Ragnarfell.
thinks he can kick Matthew's ass.
So Ragnarfell is
does.
the substitute who's just in there going, don't kill each other, it's fine.
Yeah, that's exactly what happens.
Ragnarfell is have him turn around so he can have deniability.
Yeah, he is. He is. He's just like, yeah, okay, have fun, guys. Go do that. And then James is like, I'll do it, because he's like, yeah, this is gonna be fun, beating up Matthew Fairchild. And then James ends up on the ground, and he's like, what? What have you made?
Oh, how the tables have turned.
Exactly. Yes, how the tables have turned. And Matthew's just like, guess I'm not as bad as I thought I was. And James is hating it, every minute of it. It was terrible. But speaking of terrible, this is a moment though where like the rest of the group, because Matthew and James are on their own doing this thing, and then the rest of the group is doing these team activities, whatever, and then Christopher with all of his explosiveness and Christopher-ness, absent-minded professor, Christopher vibes, always. Just there's this like battering ram log just like is going, and it goes going right for James, and then somehow he just like whoop. This like he sees his life flash before his eyes, but then the log like goes like through him, and then he's just like in this realm where stuff looks different, and anyways, but what we learned is that he entered like the shadow realm, basically, or whatever. There's like an in between, and so stuff doesn't touch him there because he's in a different realm. But nobody knows at the time, and everyone's just like, "What in the world? What was that?" Because he should be dead. Like this kid should be dead because of that log. It's just going right for his face. Um, and everybody sees this, and now he's even more weird, unfortunately. He's like, well, and they know about his mom, right? They know that James is the son of Tessa and Will, and everyone already has weird feelings about Tessa because she's a warlock, right? And so, and with James's golden eyes, you know, and now his weird abilities, it's just very, yeah, it's very
Now he has goat face
weird.
and demon butt.
Demon butt, yes, yeah. It's hold on. Yeah, it's so much. What? There's a lot happening here. And this is where I kind of start to trail off a little bit. But James, it's just a lot of James long suffering, and then Matthew also. And they have this moment where they run into each other, or like James is like, or it's like early morning too, right? Where James comes in, or James wakes up and he's just like having problems, and then like he runs into Matthew who's just like training out in the morning, and James is just like, what? Yeah, has this moment of like, what's happening here? What's he doing here?
Do you need help? Or
Yeah, I do need help, but I think that. Oh, I forgot about this because I try to forget about how much Jem comes into every single one of these stories.
I was going to say, you're leaving out a bit of an important thing.
Yeah,
Jem comes in. Yeah. Brother Jemariah, as you will, comes in.
Brother Jemariah comes in and has this little chat with James about what happened, because he doesn't remember. He just knows that he's like, whoa, and then
and Brother Jemariah is like, you're getting expelled.
Yeah, yeah.
No, you're not getting expelled yet. He says they want you to leave.
He says that.
I'm sorry. Yes,
because you're weird, basically, because you're scaring everyone.
The Mundanes don't want to hang out with you. But the Shadowhunters don't want to associate with you.
Sweet Jamness is like, but I can't leave because then my mother would know, and they would have to tell her, and I can't have her feeling that way.
Break my mom's heart. Yeah.
And then Jem's like, I
sweet
have fun.
Boy.
Later,
so they banish James to
Matthew
this
and James
basement.
Yeah, the
basement apartment away from everyone because he's dangerous. And it's during this time when he's doing his morning wanderings where he runs into one Matthew Fairchild who is training.
Yeah,
doing his
hash
thing.
it out.
Exactly.
They talk about their feelings.
They're like, you. It's that Spider-Man meme,
feelings.
Right?
They're like, I was jealous of you. I was jealous of you.
Yeah. We learned that Matthew wants to get expelled for some reason, right? Yep. It's because he wants to go home. He wants to go home and take
care of his dad.
He wants
to take care of Henry. Yeah, his dad. But yeah, there's this moment where it's being jealous of each other because reasons, and then they're like they realize they're not enemies,
mm-hmm.
that they're more
and
similar.
Then even everything comes to a head during a regular training exercise where they're supposed to be small, basically harmless demons let out of a bunch of Pixis boxes. But
Alistair Carstairs and his
decides that he's going to play a prank and release actual problematic,
dangerous
big demon.
Yeah, like a big boy. It kills the friend that supposedly thought of this idea.
James is the one that gets blamed for it.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Which is what gets him expelled.
Yes.
Yep, they're like, oh,
and then
Goatface
Matthew
child summoned a
takes
demon.
this as his chance.
Matthew does
enlists the help of Christopher.
He's like, in 4 minutes,
blows up part of the school and gets himself expelled too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
and
he does.
It's hilarious. So they lock James up in the infirmary, right? Not because he's not feeling well, but because it has bars, right?
Mm-hmm.
And while they're waiting, and like all of his friends come to say goodbye, and he and Matthew have become friends in sort of this interim time that's passed since the training incident to now. And he's sad that Matthew didn't come say bye to him. And then Will arrives, all angry.
In his carriage.
Not
stolen from Gabriel.
Yeah, in Gabriel Lightwood's carriage for the second time. And he's like, Jamie, we are going home, and blah, 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 blah. No, there's nothing you do.
Matthew
blah, blah,
comes
blah.
in,
and then
he's like, you can't separate us because we're parabatai.
Exactly.
Yep.
And then Matthew, but before that, Matthew's like, yeah, you should take me too. And Will's like, why? And then Matthew's like, well, I'm about to get expelled in like 4 minutes from now.
Yeah.
And then Will has this moment where he's like, I don't think Charlotte would like to. And then Matthew's like, but we're to be parabatai. Note that he has not asked James.
No.
Yeah, James is like, I'm sorry, when did we talk about this?
And then Will's like, oh, there it is. Come
Will's
along.
like, oh, get in the carriage.
And if anybody were to be like,
carriage.
I know you cannot split up a parabatai, it would be Will.
Exactly.
It is, yeah. So,
and by the way, when the school explodes, we might get damaged with shrapnel. So like maybe we should go stop by the Silent Brothers and you know.
Yep.
Well, I'm sure we all have thoughts on that part.
We do.
Yeah.
But
and then it ends with James and Matthew actually talking and saying they're going to be parabatai.
Mm-hmm.
They are.
Sweet
Thanks
boys.
for the assist. Woo.
You're welcome.
There's a lot that happened to that one.
Shall we get into the details?
Let's pick some of our little favorite details for sure. DILF Will is Allie's favorite detail. Oh, Mr. Herondale.
Oh,
Mr.
Everyone's still fawning over Will. Oh,
I would like to take a moment to just say that let's keep in mind during all of this that James Herondale is Ginny's bias.
He is. Yes, we are now to James Herondale era. I'm so excited.
I can kind of see why.
I've read these stories, but I didn't read them until like partway into the series.
Mm-hmm.
But going back and reading this, I was like, I would die for James Herondale as a baby. He's so cute.
He's a baby bab in this one.
It's a baby bab. I love him. He's so adorable. Like in this one, I'm like, I want to pinch your cheeks.
I find it really interesting that the kids, like that we're focusing on in these stories, don't take after their own parents.
They all have like traits of like characters.
Like Christopher is
not necessarily
takes after Henry with all the blowing stuff up.
It is.
Matthew, I feel like takes after Will with his like,
you
know, with the cocky attitude. Where I also said Matthew reminds me of Chase, but like.
That's fair.
That could be fair too. Yeah. The traits are still there, but they're not necessarily in the same family that we've seen them before.
Which is really funny to me.
It is funny.
But some of the core traits are still the same.
Oh, absolutely.
And the Herondale core trait is the ability to love like so intensely, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we don't see as much of that in this one, but we see like the way that James feels about his mother and the way that James feels about,
there's an intensity to James, for sure.
Exactly.
Like, he still feels these things, like, really deeply.
Somebody I really want to talk about is Alistair, because I just want to punch him in the face.
Yeah. Alistair, Carstairs. Fucking Alistair, man.
I wrote this down. Where did I say this?
With his terrible dyed blonde
hair. Did I say this in the other? I might have said this.
Smarmy face.
Oh, I said this I wrote this down in for another short story, The Cast Long Shadows, because we see Alistair again, but I think
we do
is relevant here.
Fuck that guy.
What's worse about this almost is that it's Alistair Carstairs. He's Jem's unrelated family. Like, Alistair is being cruel to these people who are his, what would it be? His uncle? No, his cousin? His cousin, right?
They would not be blood related.
Yes, it is, because it's his uncle's son. Isn't it?
Jem hasn't had any babies, not by blood.
No. Carstairs is his uncle's son. Jem's his uncle.
Yeah.
So wouldn't that make them related?
It is Jem's cousin, yeah. I thought you were talking about related to Jamie and the other lot, which they're...
No. Carstairs.
Right.
It's like, these people are the children of Jem's found family.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's a little hard.
And he's being...
Yeah.
It's just like... Jem would be so upset, so angry, so disappointed.
Yeah.
That's fair.
Well, Jem also doesn't know them well.
But if he did...
Jem
we get more into that in one of the chain of books, I think.
I'm just meaning, like, if Jem were still alive as a Shadowhunter, if you will.
It would be heartbreaking, for sure.
Yeah.
To watch people, who you should care about being cruel to one another.
Yeah. I just want to punch him in the face.
And
And
he
I
would
know
deserve
that
it.
Someone does
Matthew
get to punch him in the face.
and James
Mhm.
talk about punching him in the face, and I'm like, I support this.
I just wanna.
Yeah.
It's very interesting because they talk about Cordelia, his sister, being basically the complete opposite of him.
Mhm.
So,
Let's do a short little character rundown really quick, just so we can.
okay.
Because the thing is, when we get into the last hours, we're gonna get such a big cast. So let's go ahead and break down who we're being introduced to, as far as like who
Sure.
all the children are. So obviously
There's
we
a
have
lot.
Will and Tessa, who have had James Herondale.
James. And,
And we
and
also
also
have-
Lucy.
Yeah, we have reference to Lucy, who is, their little girl, and James obviously being named for Jem, which is very sweet.
Mm-hmm.
But Lucy is named after the first book character that they talk about back in Clockwork Angel.
Yep. From Tales of Two Cities.
Mm-hmm. So I had a
There's-
little moment when I figured that out. I was like,
There's Christopher Lightwood, who is Cicely and Gabriel's son.
mm-hmm. And then
I don't know which side of the family Anna is on.
Anna's on
is
that one,
also Cecily and Gabriel's.
but we haven't met Anna
So
directly yet.
Cecily,
No.
yeah. Yeah.
Thomas Lightwood is...
Are we doing a breakdown of all the characters right now, or just the ones we're talking
That
about
was
in this
just the
story?
one we were talking about.
Oh, sorry.
Okay.
I thought... Never mind.
Yeah, I think we're a little confused on what we're breaking down.
Yeah, so that way we
if,
can
if we're
add
breaking
to
it down, Allie, you go for it then.
Okay, I'll stop.
Cool. So right now we have seen James on screen. We have talked about Lucy. We have acknowledged those two. That's who those are. And then, like we said, we have Cecily Herondale, who has married Gabriel Lightwood. They have had at least one child, and we now see that is Christopher Lightwood. And then we have Sophie, who has married Gideon Lightwood. And then we have another Lightwood, Thomas Lightwood, who we have now seen on screen.
And
Other families that are important, we have Alistair Carstairs, who is not Jem's brother or a child of Jem, but instead Jem's uncle, Elias Carstairs, has had a son, Alistair Carstairs. So that's who our family trees at the moment.
I think
Oh,
it's
and then we
also
have
important-
Matthew Fairchild,
Yes.
who is Charlotte and Henry's second-born son, not Charles
I think
Buford.
it's important to mention also that Thomas Lightwood is named after Thomas from the Vices.
Yes!
Yeah, he
I
is.
also had that moment where I was... Sniffle, sniffle.
So that's a breakdown because there's a lot of characters and they're all
Mhm.
related to people.
But yeah.
And I could bring up another thing, but I don't know if either of you have anything you want to say.
Go for it.
Skipping a bit to when Jem or Brother Jemariah has come and is talking to James, they're talking about, how Jem would like love him no matter what, blah blah blah, which like we'll get into the whole Brother Jemariah being there unnecessarily all the time. We'll get there.
Mm.
But Jem said something. Jem, says something about looking at James and seeing light. And I said that it reminds me of what Shadowheart says in Act 3 of Baldur's Gate 3 about her name. You can't cast shadows without some
Having a
light.
little light.
Mhm.
And
We're
I'm
all
just
still
like,
secretly thinking of Baldur's Gate 3 at all time.
yes. It's just like, it's right, I get, James is like, this makes me a freak to other Shadowhunters because my mother is one of a kind, part demon, part Shadowhunter.
Exactly. And we see
And-
that is a thing that is obviously affecting him. Like, this is the first when we realize that something is different about James besides just his eyes. So, it's...
Yeah. That's basically that story.
Yeah.
Should we move on to the next one?
Yeah, it's about Matthew, so it's a good way to roll into.
I did the summary for this one, and I will get started.
It's from Ghost of the Shadow Market.
This one
right?
is called Cast Long Shadows, and it follows
It is.
Matthew Fairchild.
Oof.
To make a quick summary, Brother Jemariah is,
Pain.
hanging out, going through the Shadow Market,
Just
and
chilling.
Matthew Fairchild is there too, and they run into each other. Matthew's super happy to see him. And then we jump back to Idris in 1899 in the aftermath of the Shadowhunter Academy incident trademark. It's mostly the aftermath from Matthew's point of view of him talking to Alistair, and Alistair continues to be an ass. And then we go back again to 1901. Matthew just wants to hang out with Brother Jemariah, and Jem's like, you're great, Matthew, but I can't do this right now. I'm here on a mission. And he goes and finds Ragnar Fell, who is a continuously showing up character in these short stories. And Matthew, because of something Alistair says that Matthew is secretly Gideon Lightwood's son. So Matthew begins to doubt everything and think he's, starts to believe Alistair, and he takes a truth potion that he bought from the Shadow Market and puts it into some scones meant for his mother. That does not go as planned, and we find out that Charlotte was pregnant, and this incident has caused her to lose the baby. But it also gives Matthew and Henry a moment of heart-to-heart, where we find out why Matthew looks the way he does and all that. And Matthew feels incredibly guilty and probably never going to forgive himself. That's, the basic.
This is a heart-wrenching story, man. And this is
if
where
you haven't read this one, you need to. This one is so much pain.
Oh.
I wrote multiple times. I just want to reach through and give Matthew Fairchild a hug.
He needs it so bad. And he's
and
so
this
much
is,
light.
This is where we get the Will Herondale bullshit backstory type of this is the Will Herondale bullshit. Same vibes of the curse, and it's referenced a few times too.
It is because Jem references
it's happening.
Exactly.
He's like, I know a Shadowhunter who thought that they could not tell anybody about something terrible that happened to them, and then they lived with that for many, many years, and it was terrible. They cast these shadows over their entire being for years. Don't do that.
And what did Matthew do? I'm gonna do it.
He did that.
Exactly.
Matthew, yes.
Matthew, yes.
Basically, Matthew is named after Henry's great aunt Matilda, who had the same, yellow gold hair as Matthew and all that. And Matthew's like, oh damn, I fucked up.
Yeah, so let's go back to that a little bit. So we've talked a little bit about these appearances and how they've pulled through. And when that's what Alistair uses to cast doubt upon his parentage. He calls attention to, because we have Henry, who is a redhead, and I don't recall what color eyes Henry has, but then we have Charlotte, who has brown hair and dark eyes, and then we have Matthew, who is this blonde-haired, green-eyed child. He mentions in one line that his eyes are so dark, they look like they could favor his mom's, but they're not. They're actually green, and that his eyes in and of themselves are a trick, and so Alistair uses this insecurity to kind of prey on him and be like, well, you don't look like either of your parents because you secretly look like Gideon, who is your dad.
Yeah.
And
Gideon's hanging out with your mom all the time.
Exactly.
And
did you ever
Matthew starts to believe it, so he used to call him Uncle Gideon, and now he's just like Mr. Lightwood.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And he's also like, your dad's a cripple. It's so odd that you were born so late after that accident happened. Calls upon that as well. And
Alistair's just an ass. It comes down to that.
Alistair
sucks.
Worse. He sucks. Yeah. He's so mean. He's such a bully.
And it's heart-wrenching to Matthew because Matthew sees himself as his dad's keeper. Because Henry is obviously Henry. And,
Talks
doing
about
his
Henry
inventions and his...
set his own fire on hair and not even know.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
And so Matthew has seen himself as his father's parent, which is... yeah. Not great.
Not great.
And
Charlotte is busy a lot. She is now she's the consul, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so
she's the consul.
Is busy a lot, and Charles Buford is hanging on her coattails all the time.
God damn it, Charles Buford.
Which, can we just quickly appreciate that Henry got his wish with the name Buford?
Yes.
Henry got, Charles Buford. But yeah, so Charles is hanging out with Charlotte all the time. And then Matthew is like, well, leaves me to take care of Henry all the time.
I take care of
kind of
Henry. I
thing.
take care of my mom to make sure that she's still smiling because she's stressed all the time.
He helps out the cook.
Yes,
Exactly.
he secretly helps out the cook.
Matthew's a good boy.
Yeah.
He's a good egg.
He is, and
He's also...
then we have this,
Matthew has eldest daughter syndrome, you know, where he's taking all of like this family burden upon himself, and he's, you know, Alistair makes the quip "mother hen Fairchild," but that's how he sees himself. He sees himself as like the glue holding everything together. So when and he loves his family so deeply, so when that's called into question, you know, it's like, you're a bastard. It's heart-wrenching, and it fundamentally challenges who he is as a character while playing on his insecurities, and it's bad. And it's frustrating because he doesn't feel like he can be open and honest with his parents about this doubt and this insecurity, because he feels the need to kind of keep up this facade, right? Of this light and happy-go-lucky.
And it's really hard because Henry tells him this story, like, you know, like while Charlotte is suffering, and they're not sure
on death's door
at this point. Like, she's on death's door, and then Henry tells this story about, you know, they named him after Matthew or Matilda, blah blah blah, and then Matthew like has this moment. He's like, if I had just asked, this story I could have known this story, and it would have all made sense. And then, but he's like, and then Henry talks about, you know, we tried to, you know. It sounds like, you know, Charlotte can't have kids very easily. So that's why it took so long. You know, like, right. I think that was kind of the implication that I got, is like, you know, Charles Buford, but then like it's many years before Matthew, like several years before Matthew, and then, you know, this time they were trying for a girl, like, and they were really excited about it, and you know,
and it's
it's not good.
I'm going to plant the seed of my frustration at Charlotte being painted as a better mother to Will, Jem, and Jesse than to Matthew and Charles Buford. So there will be more on that within the last hours, but I'm going to plant that seed about my frustration, because a little mad about that, because Charlotte deserved a little better. You know,
she's a good mom.
She is, and she's a working mom, so to kind of paint her as frustration.
Anyway,
frustration.
Matthew.
Yeah, Matthew Fairchild. Sad times.
This is definitely not going to lead to any problems.
Oh, right. Yeah, of course not. Well,
this trauma.
We see. The nice thing about reading these before is like we can see the setup a little bit now. It would be, you know, instead of just jumping into it. You know, like Will, Herondale were like, how did this happen? That we learned out like later in the book. So this time we get in a short story, so that we could be like, oh,
speaking
this is why Matthew is. So,
how did these things happen?
This is why the way that you are. Yeah. Why are you the way that you are?
Every exquisite thing.
Every exquisite thing is about Anna Lightwood. So now we get to talk about Anna Lightwood, who is the eldest child of Cecily and Gabriel Lightwood.
Yes, so that makes her Christopher's sister.
Christopher's older sister. Yes. So Christopher's older sister, Anna Lightwood. So she
is badass.
Has so she's got her favorite pastime, which is dressing up in her brother's clothes. And you know, it's not like he notices, right? He's absent-minded. He doesn't know when his stuff is missing. So she, you know, this is like her personal wonderland. She dances around her room in these trousers and waistcoats, and just, you know, imagines this beautiful lady on her arm, and on all these things that make her feel confident and make her feel like herself. But then she has these moments where, you know, like, you know, your mom's calling from downstairs, and you're like, ah! And she has to get back into all of her dresses really quick and stuff, and it's uncomfortable. She doesn't like it, but she does it because she's still hiding these parts of herself, because she's not sure these are going to be accepted. But then, you know, her mom mentions like, oh, hey, we have to go to dinner with the Bridgestocks, and she's like, bah, you know, boo. Please keep an eye on your brother so nothing explodes. Yeah, okay, got it. Will do. Yeah. And so, you know, this is going to be some really boring thing, right? Bridgestock is the Inquisitor right now, so it's like, you know, Shadowhunter, business, dinner, blah, 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 blah.
But enter the most beautiful girl.
She is saved from
She has ever
boredom
seen.
by, the most beautiful girl she has ever seen, Ariadne Bridgestock. Comes in with her sweeping black hair and her beautiful skin and her eyes that Anna just falls right into. And she has never been more captivated in her life. So they have these moments where they're talking to each other and it's great conversation and she's just captivated this whole time. And by the end of it, they've had these moments alone and Anna's like has these moments where she's like, is this am I
Is she also
is
do
she
the gay?
getting yeah, exactly. Yeah, is she also do the gay? I don't know about that. But Ariadne ends with like, "Hey, why don't we train together? Because I'm a little behind on my Shadowhunter training, so we should partner up." And it's like, "Dab dab, yes, that,
Say less. That.
yes, yeah, yeah." So Anna also hangs out sometimes with the cousins that she has. So, James,
The Three
Lucy,
Musketeers
Matthew,
and D'Artagnan, if you will.
Yes, exactly. So hangs out with the whole crew. And so suddenly Anna has this interested like reading now because Ariadne is so well spoken and well read, and she's like, James, help me read some
Give me
books or
books.
give me some books. And James is like, I got you.
No
So
questions asked.
Anna's like, I'm gonna read all these books. Matthew's like, you're gonna read. Guess
So
what?
they have this
I have an
clubhouse
idea.
where they're all
Let's
set
go
up. And,
to this.
yeah.
I don't think that's at this location, but the idea
Oh,
is
that's
planted
right. They're
here.
in the.
It's just at a house. Yeah. But Matthew's like, I got an idea though. Let's go to this salon of disreputable
Let's go
this
to this download
disreputable
salon. For some
download salon.
debauchery.
So they go. Yeah, they go for some debauchery. They have a great time. They hang out, and then they see Leopolda Stain, who is a warlock, who takes an interest in Anna. Which this is one of the tales from, or this is one of the ghosts of the Shadow Market tales,
Yes.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And so Brother Jemariah is here, and he has also seen Leopolda Stain, and is
like,
kind of like a little suspicious. Yeah, exactly. He's like sus, wants to know more about her. So that's kind of the context of this being one of those tales too. So Anna also runs into Leopolda Stain. Leopolda is like quite interested in her, and is like, hope to see you again. And then that's how that ends. And then we end up
and Anna gets to go to this in
and...
her disguise as a young man. So
Yes.
she's wearing Christopher's clothes, and there's a sweet moment with Matthew where she appears, and then Matthew's like, "But it would look better with this waistcoat," and whatnot, and like,
yeah. So there's that support there,
and Anna feels alive
from
when she's wearing this, get up.
Yeah, she does. Ariadne does come and train. They train together. Ariadne is actually not good at training, so she wasn't lying. And then Anna gets to help her, and they have their little moments, their moments of being close and connecting, and will they, won't they? And then Ariadne's like, why don't we do something tonight at like midnight? We'll sneak out and go. And then Anna's like, I know a place. And then they go to the same salon, but this time they're not like welcomed in. Like last time, and it's because Leopolda Stain is doing some demonic summoning thing, and it's time. But they're like, we're gonna, like they're like they find out anyways because they're like, well, if we're not allowed in, we're gonna sneak in. Let's go. And then they see that Leopold is like doing this demonic ritual thing, summoning demons, and the demons are like killing the mundanes.
So what do Shadowhunters do?
Good.
They kill the demon.
So what do Shadowhunters do? They insert themselves in the situation. They kill the demons. Jemariah shows up, as he does.
Absconds with Leopolda.
Yep. Takes her away.
Oh no.
And then Anna is injured though, like pretty severely injured. So they gotta sneak back to the Bridgestocks. And Ariadne is actually a really good nurse, so she patches up Anna, and then Anna gets to stay in her bed, and then they have their little moment, their little night together.
They do more than smooch. They do the do, as it were. Yeah. In a very YA appropriate fade to black, I will add.
Exactly. Very YA appropriate. Yep. But then Anna has to like sneak out the next morning, as you do, because I can't be seen here. And then we cut back and forth to Brother Jemariah a little bit. Jemariah ends up interrogating Leopolda about Tessa's father, and we learn that he is a prince of hell. Yes,
he's a big bad.
Because he's a big boy, a big demon, big bad demon. So prince of hell. But then he the werewolves tear her apart, and it's a bad time for Leopolda Stain. And then come back to Anna. Ends up being a bad time for Anna in the end.
But we're not there yet.
So, you know, things.
Oh yeah, we are
Things
there.
were good. Yeah, things were good. But then, you know, after a couple of days, they meet back up again, and Anna is, you know, brings these flowers and is just kind of like waiting to have that moment again of like, oh, I had such a great time, this and that. But then Charles Buford, right, is the one who's there. It is Charles. Oh
It is
yeah, it
Charles
is Charles.
Buford.
He's just like there, the Bridgestock's house, and Ariadne's mom was like, oh, just give him a moment, just give him a moment, and then it's a little strange what's happening there, and then Charles is like, can I call on you again or whatever after I come back from he's going to Paris or something.
Paris, yes.
Yeah, and then Ariadne's like, yep, and then her mom's like, I'm hoping for an engagement or whatever, like soon, and then Anna's just like heartbroken. And it's like I don't like that. Yeah, like it's all falling apart. And then she has this conversation with Ariadne, and Ariadne's like, I gotta, like, I'm a woman in this time, and
But we can still bang though,
that's,
right?
That's how it is. Yeah, but I would like, you know, we got a year, so we can hang out, we can bang, we can be.
But after I get married,
lovers
we can't
for, like,
bang
a
anymore.
year.
So like this is just
Exactly.
like a temporary arrangement.
And Anna's like, fuck this shit, I'm out.
Which good for her.
Which good for her, but it hurts so much. But she goes home, and you know, she loses the girl, but she ends up finding herself because Cecily has noticed all these things that Anna is like, hopefully my parents aren't noticing, but Cecily is like, it gives her
Cecily's
this
a good
suit
mom.
that's actually tailored. Yes, actually tailored to her, and she gives her the family heirloom, the demon the gem that awareness
the ruby
for
necklace.
demons. Yes, the ruby necklace, exactly. So that gets passed down, and then, you know, she sees that her family sees her, and she, you know, they're encouraging her to go out in the suit and the things that she feels good in.
And she chops off her hair, and
she does chop the hair. She
pulls Mulan.
It's gone. She does. She pulls a Mulan, and it's gone.
Also pulls a Rapunzel.
Yep. So while things aren't good, they're they're not good. You know, again, it is very much, you know, she loses the girl, but she finds herself. So it's a bittersweet thing there, kind of end.
I love in that ending how Gabriel and Cecily are talking, and like, because you see that Cecily's seen Anna, because obviously she's the one having this conversation with her daughter, and it's like, oh, that girl broke your heart, didn't she? It's like, oh, well, there'll be other ones. Here's this suit. But we don't know about Gabriel's take on this. And then Anna comes down in her suit and her shorn hair. And then Gabriel's like, I told you that the blue was the right choice for the waistcoat.
Yeah.
And it's just like, so you get to know that his full support's there too. And it's very good.
Yeah, their support is really good because, she's hiding if she doesn't want to embarrass her family or, this and that too.
It's like
or hurt
the
them,
opposite of Jessie.
But
in a way.
Yeah. Yeah,
well, I mean, in that, like, Jessie, all Jessie wanted was the feminine and all that, and what's the opposite?
Right. Yeah.
That's all.
Yeah, and Anna, there's a power that comes with the male clothing and things like
and
that.
It's not
Anna likes that. And
Anna doesn't see her as a man, doesn't see herself as a man, and that's very, she deliberately says that.
She just prefers not to wear the frilly clothing.
She feels empowered in the men's clothing, and she feels empowered embracing her femininity and her masculinity, and she feels closest to herself in these.
She can wear whatever she wants as long as it makes her happy.
She can, and then it's nice to see Cecily encouraging of her daughter's fashion choices, but also her daughter's romance choices as well.
Yeah,
she says, like, there'll be other women, and Anna's like, aren't you worried that I can't have children? And she's like, nah, Shadowhunters are orphaned all the time.
I mean, I don't doubt that any of them would be accepting, but I feel like it makes the most sense that Cecily is like, yeah, I don't care. Like, I care, but, like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, Cecily is, The main cast of our characters is going to be good for this, which is great, because it sets these great examples for the kids.
The kiddos.
Because we're gonna see this running theme of, like, like in YA books, we can't tell the adults about anything, and like that's going to be a problem.
It's going to be a problem.
A big problem in the last hours.
I mean,
we know from our end that we can, like these adults have gone through it, and they are the most accepting adults that you are gonna get. But it's funny because these kids don't know that, but
They're like, well, no, our parents can't know.
we
We're
know,
just like,
yeah,
bruh.
like, we know that
That
Cecily and Gabriel and all these people would, they got
that
through the
is
same shit.
that
So
is a theme
important
that runs
note.
in. Go ahead.
Really quickly before we move on, because I do know that we are trying to move on. But Matthew makes an appearance in this, and obviously Matthew's being Matthew and is accepting and all these other things. He is also quite drunk every time he appears in this story.
Yes.
And yeah, that
Well,
is an important thing to note.
speaking of being drunk and not telling our parents things, let's move on to our last story, which is from the Bane Chronicles, and it's called The Midnight Heir.
It is not about Magnus being drunk, but
It's about somebody being
he's
drunk.
he's drunk a lot in these chronicles.
Magnus does spend a lot of his chronicles.
Magnus, for once, is not drunk. Instead,
He's not.
we find him taking care of a drunk James Herondale.
James is drunk. Yep.
Oh, Jamie.
James is on the struggle bus right now.
Wasted.
Jamie boy.
He's on the struggle bus. He's going through it. He just does not seem to care for anything. He doesn't seem to care about his life. He tries to drown himself. He goes into his shadow form, if you will. I don't know what we're calling it, but I'm calling it a shadow form, for lack of a better term.
Yeah.
And plays pranks on this constable, and Magnus has to run after him to keep him from getting himself into more trouble. Eventually, James passes out, and he whispers a name in his sleep, Grace. Magnus brings him back to the London Institute, where he reunites with Will and Tessa. And Magnus tries to get James to open up to him and confide in him the way Will did. But James is like, no, I promised I wouldn't tell anyone. But we find out the reason Magnus is back in London, because if we remember, the last time we saw him, at least in this time period, he was going to New York. Was because Tatiana Blackthorn has summoned him. And we find out Tatiana Blackthorn wants him to use magic. What we originally thought was use magic to make Heir ward Grace more beautiful, but it's just that Tatiana wants Magnus to murder some Shadowhunters. And Magnus is like, no, I'm not going to do that. Magnus attempts to leave, and Grace confronts him. They have a talk. Eventually, Magnus leaves, and he's like, you know what? I'm just gonna go back to New York. I'm done with this shit.
Fuck this shit, I'm out.
That's the basic plot summary, I feel like.
That's pretty solid.
So publication order, it's interesting to note
like-
this is the first time we're introduced to James.
Oh, is it? Really?
Publication-wise,
Okay.
this is the first
Yeah,
one.
you're
because
right.
Chronicles
That's
came
really
out
interesting.
way back. So
Yeah.
it's interesting, as somebody who's read The Lost Hours, to see how James' characterization has changed just a little bit.
Yeah. That's true.
Like
We
this,
first meet him when he's a drunken mess.
and like even though he's very drunk, like the anger that he displays and the recklessness that he displays is not wholly in line with the finalized James that we get.
I just kind of figured, like, based on what we had known about James already, that something must have gone down, but it's interesting to know that this is not sort of fully in line with his characterization going forward, I guess.
Well, obviously shit
we
has
read
gone down.
Well, yeah,
Yeah.
but, like, you're saying it's not totally... whatever.
Yeah, and we read these stories, like, I think Ali put them in, like, time chronological order, though, so that we saw, like, baby Jamie, and now he's, like, angsty teen Jamie, yeah.
It's interesting that Magnus is not the one getting into
Angsty free
shenanigans
Jamie.
this time.
Mm-hmm.
It's another Herondale.
He's getting a
It's
taste of
funny
his own
'cause, like,
medicine.
Yeah,
And,
and Magnus
we-
mentions offhand, sometimes he's like, I kind of miss London, and then he goes and he's like,
No,
Fuck London, I'm out.
no, fuck
Sorry,
London.
Tessa. I know I
Yeah,
promised to come back, but
Herondale.
I can't keep you. I can't keep that promise.
I can't watch a crotch spawn.
Yeah, for real. Yeah.
We had heard the name
James.
Grace previously in
Mhm.
Shadowhunter Academy.
Yeah.
So we learn who Grace is here, and it's very interesting to know that, like, since the Bane Chronicles would have been published first, if you had read the Bane Chronicles first in, like, chronological publication order, you would already know who Grace is by the time Shadowhunter Academy came around.
Mm-hmm. Grace is Tatiana Blackthorn's ward. So not her
Yep.
own child,
not
but effectively her child.
But yeah.
Because her child, because I think we learned that she was pregnant in the Clockwork series. But
I mean, it's revealed, even if we didn't, we know she was, because it talks about it in this short story.
And yeah, her child, Jesse Blackthorn, was sickly and died shortly after receiving his marks.
He was 16.
And she's still very torn up with that, even though it's 9 years past that.
She's also still very hung up on her father.
Yes.
Oh, yeah. She
does not talk to anybody in any of the Lightwoods, any of the Herondales. She doesn't consider herself a Shadowhunter, which is a very powerful statement for a Shadowhunter to make.
Yeah.
The writings that Eggs Benedict Lightworm put on the walls in his deteriorating state are still there.
Magnus comments on the blood that's just in these places.
We go through that house, and it's like a time, like it's like a frozen in time type of thing.
And nature's come to claim it again, and the dust and the grime and the... And Tatiana a little fucked up in the head.
We don't know much about Grace yet, but she's very clearly, like, fully in control of her actions, which is an interesting detail.
Yes.
Is she? She's got some interest. There's something about her. Magnus feels almost compelled by her for reasons that he can't quite place. And he seems very alarmed by it.
I might have missed that. I took it as, like, she was very much... Maybe it's not. Maybe it's like a nurtured thing by Tatiana.
I argue that she's not in control of her actions, because if you look at one of the lines at the very end, she refers to herself as Tatiana's blade, because as Magnus is running out, she threatens him. She says, "You will tell no one of this, or I'll be the one to end you," or whatnot. And Magnus is like, okay.
Noted.
Yeah. And then, Magnus says something along the lines of, like, a blade cannot control where it's pointed. Or something like that. I forget who says that, but yeah, there's reference made to...
Yeah.
She's being controlled by an outside force.
He tries to, get through to Grace by talking about James, but it doesn't seem to faze her either.
Yeah. And I think that's
or if it does, it's not like...
control where it's pointed comes from.
If it is phasing her, she hides it very well.
Yeah.
Yeah, so something weird's happening with that Tatiana Grace thing. Also, the favor that they wanted from Magnus, they wanted him to kill 5 Shadowhunters.
Yeah.
Including
Magnus
Will.
was like, no, I'm not going to do that.
Not going to do that. Not after
Tatiana's like, but I'll pay you a lot.
Like,
Magnus is like, I'm good, thanks.
Yeah. Yeah, and we're gonna, like, essentially we see this a little bit about Tatiana before. The thing is, we get a little bit about her in the Inferno Faces, right? We know that she's a little not with it. She's a little messed up in general. And when we see that she was kind of set up to fail in that she was never received any, like, training, because basically her parents were just like, oh, you're going to be the sweet little girl who's just going to be married, a bride, and you're just going to have kids. Like, that's what you're going to do. And so she doesn't have any of this training or any of this stuff. So she doesn't feel like a Shadowhunter. She doesn't consider herself a Shadowhunter. And then she just doesn't feel like she can reach out to anybody in the Shadowhunter community. Like, no one's going to understand. Yeah. No one's going to help her. And it just gets furthered by the thing of, like, kid. Like, yeah.
I wrote this down that I was like, you know what? Tatiana has a point in when she's talking about, why she is the way that she is. She's just, following what she was told, and all she's ever done was what was asked of her, and in the end, she was punished for it.
She's kind of a tragic character in ways, for sure. Like I said, she was setting up. She was kind of set up to fail in it, but, like, she, unfortunately, like, as an adult, like, there's things that you gotta just, you gotta grow up.
She didn't turn out like Gideon and Gabriel.
No, she didn't. But yeah. And Magnus recognizes this. Magnus recognizes, he understands that the Shadowhunters can be cruel, better than anybody. He gets that. So he sees that there's some tragedy here, and he mentions, like, why don't you reach out to people? I'm sure they would help you, and things like that. And she's just like, nope, can't do that. Nope, not gonna do that. So yeah, warlocks out here
trying to solve Shadowhunters problems.
Shadowhunters Just
So-
And
to
then
all
there's
each
Ragnar
other.
Fell, who is just like, I don't want to be involved in any of this, yet
So,
somehow
an
keeps
interesting
getting
note
himself
is that
involved.
Ragnar Fell appears in this story, and it's kind of a, it's kind of a nod to the chronological posting order, because he doesn't know James in this story. He was a professor at the academy, but in this story, he doesn't know James. Ragnar Fell is the one who's giving James all these bets and betting him to shoot out all the lights in the chandelier.
I knew that Ragnar was in. I didn't think that Ragnar didn't know him.
It's written in such a way that he knows him, that he doesn't know him.
So is this taking place before Shadowhunter Academy?
This takes place after. I think this is just a note to the publication order.
Academy.
That it wasn't quite in
I was gonna say,
Cassandra head yet
no
that
way
Ragnar
it can
Fell
take
is going to
place
be the
before. That's
professor.
the only way. Okay.
But I was like, hee hee.
Yeah.
So, we love continuity
I was like,
errors.
I thought it was funny that Ragnar was the one making the bets, but I was also just like, why would Ragnar choose to do this? It makes
He
no
wouldn't.
sense.
Yeah.
Ragnar is like, I want
Yeah.
nothing to do with these demonic children.
Exactly. He's scared of the of the
Yeah, he
terrible four.
doesn't he like, or like there's some, he says something, or because I think in the one where Matthew in the shadow mark, he runs into Matthew and he's like,
He's like,
is Christopher around?
Is Christopher here?
Is Christopher within 4 miles
Yeah.
of me? Is Christopher? Yeah.
That is too
He's
close.
like,
I'm
close
leaving.
enough,
A
too
note
close.
that I think
I'm
we can
leaving
wrap
this-
up
I'm
on,
leaving the
and
city.
I think something we can wrap up on, I think we all agree on, is we love Jem, but Brother Jemariah needs to stop being summoned for every little thing.
Brother Jemariah,
I'm gonna tell you it's not gonna
please.
get any better, but that's fine.
It doesn't.
I
it
can-
doesn't.
We just have to
can-
learn
I'm
how to
fine.
roll with it, guys.
I'm fine with him coming to
Uh,
James after the thing that happened, because that's more of like a...
I mean, that is a weird, yeah.
I'm more
Exceptional
fine with that one because
circumstance.
it's more of like a family member coming to comfort,
Oh yeah.
even though it's Jem and not like his father. But Will being like, we need to summon the Shadowhunter, the Silent Brothers, because what if there was shrapnel? And
Yeah.
summon Jem because James
Yeah.
came home passed out drunk.
Whatever.
Like,
Yep.
well, Tessa, you need to let him go. I'm sorry.
It's fine. Everything's fine.
Never,
But anyway, yeah, that's where we're gonna wrap up for the year. And
the year. I
Wow.
know,
the
wild.
year. We'll see you in the new
bunch of
year
shorts.
with
Everyone, have a wonderful Christmas if you celebrate. If not, like we said earlier, have a wonderful Sunday, Monday, and have a
Exactly.
happy and healthy and safe New Year.
and we'll see
Yeah.
you January 6th.
6th, I think.
January
Yeah.
6th with Chain of Gold.
Chain of Gold.
Part 1. I don't know exactly what
Ooh,
chapters those
excited.
are, but cut the book in half and then cut it in half again, and then the first quarter of the book is how much we'll be reading. So find us here to discuss
We'll let
that.
you know on socials.
Find me here for my first time reactions.
Yes.
Yeah, first time for Melody.
Anyway,
Indeed. But anyway, we'll catch you all in the new year.
2024.
whoa.
2024.
Bye, guys.
Bye to y'all.
Bye-bye.
Merry Christmas and bye to 2023.